Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Coach's Corner. For those of you who are new to the group, we want to say thank you and welcome to the group. We're so super stoked that you're here. My name is Penny Handsome, health and mindset coach. There we go. Little glitch in my computer as always. And together with Coach Lisa Boston, we are the co-owners of Lux Life Coaching, and we co-founded this group. Mostly Lisa coded it, and then we built it. So we hope that you're finding everything that you need inside the group. And if you're unsure, we have the guides. So above, you'll see the guides and our pin post, the stuff that we're showcasing for this week. So it's been a couple weeks. Both Lisa and I were off on holiday last week, so there was no lives. So I'm gonna make up for that. I have got a really good live today, which I'm super stoked to do. Titling, women who have these 4 characteristics are more likely to have an autoimmune disease. So what is an autoimmune disease? It is something that attacks our immune system. So 80% of all autoimmune diseases happen to women. And is it happening to you? So are we looking at, gut issues, gut IBS, inflammatory bowel, Crohn's, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, and, an autoimmune is like diabetes type 2. Obviously, type 1 is genetic. So most people who have these late onset issues, they're always blaming it's old age. And that's not really true. So when we look at the characteristics in women and why they're getting more autoimmune diseases, here's the 4 main significant characteristics. So see if any of these talk about you. So I know I've personally fallen into all of them in the past. And when we look at making a change in our mindset, this is why and how so many people are able to change the issues that they have with the mindset that they've got going on. So first significant characteristic for most women is they tend to put other people's emotional needs first. Sound like anybody? I know it's most certainly me. And as women and moms, we tend to take on everybody else's emotions and then feel that we have to solve that problem. But the question is, you have to ask yourself is it my problem to solve? Right? And as parents, we have to also teach our children resilience. So sometimes they're going to be upset. That's okay. That's part of life. You were upset. Your kid's going to be upset. That's just the way it is. Okay, number 2 is women tend to identify with duty, role, and responsibility rather than the needs of self. Okay, we see this all the time. Putting everybody else first over and above your self-care. If you're exhausted, you're tired, you're like haven't eaten all day, and then you're like, well, so-and-so asked me to do this, so I'll just do it. Okay, so we're going to get into the people pleasing and how that's a trauma response in a few minutes. So, because I want to go through the 4 characteristics first. So number 3 is they tend to be very nice, which means they repress healthy anger. Okay, so I've talked about this in other videos where all emotions are welcome at the table. It's understanding how to express them properly in a healthy way in order to release them. Right? We're allowed to be sad, mad, angry. We're allowed to have grief. We're allowed to have all of those things. But if we don't express them properly, then we fall into a problem. Okay. Number 4 is women tend to believe that they're responsible for how other people feel, which leads us into the point of most people pleasers, which is an actual trauma response. Okay, so people pleasing isn't about people pleasing. It's about worrying about how other people view you. Right? So if I do everything great, people are going to view me as I'm a great person, opposed to just being yourself. Right? So then what happens is we have this sliding scale. So we've got 4 characteristics that most women fall into. That's why 80% of all autoimmune diseases happen to women. Okay? So when we look at a sliding scale, I talk about the big T traumas and the small T traumas. And, I get it. And most women are going to be like, I don't have any trauma. So I use this example all the time. For an example, you're 4 or 5 years old. You're in the park. You fall off the swing, and you're looking for your mom to cuddle you and make it all feel better. And she ignores you because she's on a phone call or she's talking to somebody. As a Gen Xer, I can tell you, our parents were like, "You're fine. Throw some dirt on it. Go away." Okay, I get that, like, as we age, we learn, and that's not always the case. But if you were a person who needed more time, more cuddles, more attention, more something, and you didn't get it, that creates a trauma because it creates an emotion that sticks within your body. So I talk about, big T traumas, which are catastrophic, and then there's a sliding scale. Small T traumas, death of 1,000 paper cuts. So there can be a whole bunch of little traumas that add up and then compound. Interest is a thing. Compound that, and they lead up to a malfunction in the way we think and a destruction in the body. Okay, so when we talk about having the understanding of what your mindset is, this is why most women have an issue with like long-term weight loss. Okay, so majority, if you see, it's all over social media. Every woman is always about the scale. What is the scale? They're not looking at, am I happier? Do I sleep better? Do I poop better? If you ever watched any of Coach Lisa's videos, she talks about it all the time because it's a thing. The way you poop is telling you what your body's doing inside. If you're not sleeping, your body's telling you what your brain hasn't let go of. Okay, there's signs. If you have eczema, autoimmune problem, right? If you have diarrhea, constipation, autoimmune problem. All of these things are issues that come in. So when we're looking at how these characteristics show up in our life, how do we make that switch? Okay, so I want to come back quickly to the people pleasing, because I said it's a trauma response, and it is. And most people are like, oh, it's just who I am. I just want everybody to like me. You have to ask the question, why? Why do you feel the need for everybody to like you? Okay, so when you grow up feeling abandoned, I did not say you were abandoned, feeling abandoned and feeling that you didn't get any attention, middle child right here, but the only girl, so I kind of won on that one. But if you're feeling like you were neglected or you just didn't have the attention of your parents, that's then going to turn into a response to get their attention. So we turn into people pleasing because it's a trauma response. So these are beliefs that we grow up with. Okay, so leads into not saying, right. So this also leads us into never saying no to people when somebody asks us for something, which leads into more stress. Now, I get it. People throw the word stress around like we're throwing the word popcorn. Everybody's like, oh, it's just stress. It's just stress. But if you have enough stress in your body, it will shut down, right? So your stress creates fear. It creates anxiety. It creates bad habits. It creates addictions. So if you're coming home and you're like, oh, I need a glass of wine, or every morning, and I've talked about this in the last video, like if you wake up and you're like, I need a cup of coffee, that's an addiction. Okay, so we all know what the addictions are, whether it's our shopping habits, whether it's trying to communicate and you're an oversharer. Okay, this is an addiction to drama cycles, and I talked about this in many, many other videos. As women, if we're not getting our needs met, we will create the drama. Okay? And if you can't create your own, you're going to jump into somebody else's. Okay? We're in Costa Rica. We had a couple weeks of some heavy duty rain. Flights were canceled. Shit's happening. The whole thing's a mess. And then you see it on social media. People are jumping into the drama of the people who are actually stranded right now, trying to get home. And people are I saw this one post and the woman said, I'm coming down in January. Not your problem. Not a problem. But yet wanting to be part of the drama because she's feeling left out. That's an issue. That's a mental issue. Okay? I feel that sometimes, my belief only, I feel that when we look at and we say mental issues, everybody goes for that, oh, I don't need to be like, in therapy. I don't need to be here. There's so many different levels of it, right? Like the baseline levels are so low. Like when you have a trauma, everybody's like, I'm not traumatized. Anything that like creates an addictive behavior or creates a pattern of habits that you can't break, there's a trauma behind it. All of them. Now, problem is, nobody wants to identify with that. So when we look at, coming back to the constant stressors that we have, and you're constantly taking on other people's stress, which means your stress gets amplified, which undermines your immune system, which then turns against you. So we talk about gut health. I know Coach Lisa talks about gut health all the time because it's a regulator. Okay, it is the second brain of our body. Everybody says it, but nobody actually acknowledges it. It's like we're just saying stress, we're just saying gut health, we're just saying these words. But the thing is, nobody's putting it into practice, and no one's actually like, okay, this is really a thing, right? Like our whole body is made up with like mind, body, spirit. Our emotions, our belief systems, and everything else. So this is where I want to talk about why we do what we do. Why is it that women have these 4 characteristics more so than men? It is because we are programmed at a very young age to always be looking out for someone else and their emotional needs, right? So everybody, and then you're taking on everybody else's stress and making it your own. How many times, your best friend, your siblings, your spouse, your kids, your parents, you take all that on. I know I've done it. I did it recently, actually. So it's kind of like, my daughter was going through stuff. I took all that on. I couldn't help her. And quite frankly, she's 31. She's an adult. She can help herself. But I took it on so much that I actually got sick. Like full on body shutdown, sick, right? And that's just from stress. And I recognize that is. Okay, so when we look at making these switches, we have to first acknowledge that we're doing it, because then we can identify what it is. So when we identify, the fact that in society, our duties and our roles is to be nice all the time, and not to be angry in a healthy way. So this creates pressure. So you're not releasing the anger. You're not releasing the emotions. You're just holding them in and burying them down. How many here watching, and thank you for that, have had that issue where I'm just going to close it up into a little box. I'm going to just push my emotions down. I'm not going to say anything at all. Well, that's creating a problem within the body, because your body's holding on to that, you're holding on to that, and then you're getting resentful because you're holding on to that. Okay, so when we identify that this is not actually, isn't just a gender issue, it's a cultural issue, which falls into, these are inherited beliefs. And when Coach Lisa and I work with our clients, and even inside of our membership, there's a whole section about understanding what your belief system is and what your core value system is. Because I can ask many people and they will not come out at all with what their own core value is. So how do you understand to make a change if you're not in tune to what your core values are and what your core beliefs are? Okay, so usually what happens, our belief system is given to us from the time of birth, right? Because it's generational. It's passed down from our great-grandparents, our grandparents, our parents, into us. And then we take that and we pass that on to our kids. Unless you're aware of it and then you want to start changing. So if you're feeling out of alignment, and if you've always got that feeling of I don't know, it's just not right, it's because you've inherited these beliefs, this belief system, and you've inherited the programming of I must be all of these things. I must get straight A's in school. I must make my parents proud. Oh, they're not paying attention to me. Okay, I've got to excel. I've got to do this. Or we go the other way. We've all seen it if you've got kids, you've seen it. Your kids want your attention. They don't care how they get it, good or bad. Well, I hate to break it to you, but once upon a time, we were those kids. So we've learned negative actions get attention, which now we grow up with. So we do all the negative things in order to get attention. From who? That's on you. That's only you can answer that. Right? So when we're looking at how this shows up in our life, this shows up in the mindset to which we have. And the mindset we have is from, again, generations that run into issues with our hormones, our sleep, our weight, our addictions, our emotions. Like all of these things are in play. And then we wonder why, as women, you see it all the time. It's like, oh, I'm trying to lose weight. Oh, I've lost weight. Oh, I've gained weight. Oh, I've lost weight. Oh, I'm going to start this diet. Oh, I'm going to do this. There's no consistency because we're looking for the quick fix, because we're looking for some attention. Because that's what's been passed on down the line. I can tell you, I made a post about this a couple weeks ago, how many times my mom was on a diet because she'd stand there and she's like, I just got to get rid of my tummy. Okay. So then she would just start eating steak and salad. She had no idea what she was doing. It was the 80s. I didn't know what she was doing because I was a teenager. And then there was my grandmother when she turned 100. She asked me, she's like, Penny, how do I lose a little off my tummy? I want to look good in my outfit. The woman's turning 100 and she's concerned about her belly fat. Okay. So if that doesn't scare you a little bit of the way our belief system is, because the woman grew up or was born at 1904, went through everything, the Depression, the war, helped raise her 7 other siblings because she was the oldest. That's what you did. Worked on a farm, got married, raised 4 kids. My grandfather died when I was 13, so I'm 56, do the math. So she was on her own all of this time, surviving, living, like all the stuff. And it all boiled down to, how do I get rid of my belly, tone down my belly? Ladies, our mindset has been given to us over the past generations. And until we identify that this is what's going on in our brain, it's going to be very difficult in order to get that living consistency, making sure that we're having a healthy lifestyle. And these are all the things that Coach Lisa and I teach inside of our DIY program, which is the membership we've been talking about, and inside of our premium coaching. Okay, so it's understanding. The mindset is huge and everybody ignores it. So, Coach Lisa and I have been in this business for 27 years and we've seen the same thing over and over and over again. And it's women have the same issues, but what they're missing is that key component of changing the mindset, of looking at things differently and understanding that what we're doing on a mental level is affecting ourselves on the physical level. So if you've got these 4 characteristics, you're going to increase your stress and anxiety, because that's like living in fear and living in the unknown. And quite frankly, there's no point of that because you don't know what's going to happen. Or depression, which is like living in the stuff that's in the past, which you can't change. So you may as well just make it work, manage it, let it go. Takes time, by the way. That's easier said than done. But then which then looks at when we live in either the past or the future, that's us living in victimhood. And I've talked about this a couple of times, and I didn't really get into it because everybody's like, I'm not a victim. Yeah, you are. I was. I still am in some things. I had this huge aha moment just 4 days ago where I went, oh, that, damn it. Right? We're always growing. We're always expanding. We're always asking why. When I wake up in the morning, it's like, okay, why? What's going on? What's this? Opposed to living in the stress that we're living in and blindly going through all the things that we're going through because that's what we're taught. We're taught to ignore ourselves. We're taught that our self-care doesn't matter. And we're also taught that self-care is surface. So haircut, facial, mani-pedi, going for a massage, all beautiful, wonderful things. But that's not real self-care. Self-care is digging into why you do what you do. Self-care is digging into understanding your belief system so that you can adapt the one that's really right for you and feel aligned in your life. Self-care is feeling joyful every single day, even when you're having a bad day. So, when we talk about our emotions, we can talk about, you can choose to be in a bad mood or you can choose to be in a good mood. You can still be in a good mood when bad things are happening. Or you can be in a bad mood when all the good things are happening. This, though, affects your mindset, which affects your stress levels, which then affect autoimmune diseases. So if you're suffering and have an autoimmune issue, the end result is we've created it ourselves. We've created it in the stress that we believe, in the belief system that we have, and the way we still choose to look at it. Whereas most women are like, well, it's just an age thing. That's not true. You developed it mentally, because everything that we focus on, we produce. So if you're focused on aging and you're focusing on all the bad things that happen while you're aging, they're going to happen. If you focus on all the good changes and focus on your intentions of the day, focusing on how to set your intentions, focusing on your gratitude, that changes the body chemistry, and then that produces better hormones so that you're feeling better. Right? So we do this all the time. It's like, oh, I can't do this. Like we look at women all the time and it's like they stop, start. Because they're willing to just like, well, that's what my parents did. Take a look at what the generations did, and you'll see your own behaviors. And when I had to do that, a little creepy actually. That was my big aha moment, by the way. I was like, damn it, did the exact same thing my mom's done. Because inevitably we become our parents because that's all we know until we start to investigate and make a change. Okay? So when we look at these 4 characteristics, we want to understand where our basis from which our belief system is generated, what our core values are, and start taking notes on ourselves in our actions to see, are we then, in fact, going to end up with an autoimmune disease? Or do we already have one that needs to be reversed? Okay? So again, the 4 significant characteristics of our autoimmune diseases, and 80% of the women have them. So again, we're looking at putting other people first, people pleasing, identifying with our duties and roles, responsibilities, rather than the needs of ourselves. Okay, this is, again, we do this on purpose because then we can play the martyr. Oh, look at me, I'm so busy. That busy badge, got to take it off. It's not helping anybody. Tending to be nice all the time and repressing your emotions. And then we believe that we're responsible for everybody else's emotions and how they respond. And that's not true. You are only responsible for yourself. You're only responsible for your emotions. You're also responsible for how you react. Not how everybody else is. It's none of your business. Okay? So on that note, I'm going to end this here. And I want you to think about and post in the comments below, which one of these 4 characteristics do you have and how does it affect your life? Okay, some big thinking. And this is where we want to dig in a little bit to like how our mindset is, and also what addictions do you have as a result from these generational habits that we have, because they're not your own. They were developed and you adapted them as you grew up because you watched your mom do it, your grandmother and your great-grandmother, or aunts, uncles. So they are all passed down through the generations. So you can comment in below. So I appreciate the time that you've taken to watch this today. And if you're watching a replay, please put #replay. And if you have any questions or comments, I will answer them when I see them. Okay, guys, have a great Friday and we'll see you in 2 weeks.